Hey everybody! Welcome to Friday the 13th, the series. I'm your producer, Robert.
And I'm your guest, Joe Slepsky.
And after a complete, spoiler-filled recap of the episode, we are going to discuss the show you either just learned existed or always wondered how it existed. We promise the answers will be few and far between because we're just here to have some goofity fun exploring a show that, despite or possibly even because of its faults, isn't good and isn't so bad it's good, but is still somehow oddly charming. Let's dive in, shall we? We've got changes galore this episode, so let's get down to brass tacks. This go-round, I decided to not burden my guest with listening to me read select highlights from the filmographies of the cast, even though Joe is probably familiar with more of the titles than most of my guests, and we'll tackle that alone between our usual segments. That said, there will be one highly unusual segment in which I'll briefly discuss my findings when I decided I had to know if Ninja Turf was a real film or just a made-up title for a driving shot. I'll tell you now, they can be summed up by the classic line from National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. If I woke up tomorrow with my head sewn to the carpet, I wouldn't be more surprised than I am right now. But it's not new material all the way down. I'll still synopsize the next chunk of episode 18, Brain Drain. Joe and I will discuss it a little, but mostly go off topic, and we'll both give doomed predictions of an amorous variety for the eternally humbling segment, Crystal Ball. This is where I would normally advocate for watching the show with us on YouTube, occasionally warning that the episodes might not be available forever. And indeed, they are not. Paramount seems to be cracking down as of late, so the days of being able to watch all the episodes in a neatly presented playlist seem to be over. At best, with a little effort, you can find certain individual episodes, including episode 18, Brain Drain. When available, I'll try to maintain an active link on the Inner Demon Entertainment website, but be aware it's now going to be catch as catch can. As of this moment, the link is working, so tarry not and watch episode 18 today. The episode The Great Montaro had a, I believe, gay magician assistant subplot.
Okay.
You absolutely had a male magician performing as a woman. And yes, that served the practical function of throwing anyone that might suspect him off his scent.
So is this Terror Train?
Well, yes, that actually was brought up to me by Jeremiah.
Probably would have been Jeremiah, yeah.
Going back to our respective days growing up in video stores, I remember that poster kind of made an impression on me.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't seen it. I didn't know anything about it. And then I was informed that there was this story. Please walk me through it again, but essentially a gay magician?
Spoiler alert for 40-year-old Terror Train. A college student is traumatized sexually in a prank in the beginning of the movie. And then fast forward a year later, and that student comes to seek their revenge on the classmates. The killer that's on this train that's traveling through Canadian wilderness, also another Canadian joint. The kid that was traumatized is now, to be sensitive, I don't know if they were technically like trans or if they were just cross-dressing to hide their identity. You know, I don't know what it would be, but it was dressed as a woman and was the magician's assistant. And magician was David Copperfield.
That is the one thing I absolutely remember from my discussion.
He's taking that train to Epstein Island, and his female assistant was actually the male kid from the beginning of the movie that got traumatized.
Short answer to, were they referencing Terror Train? Boy, it sure sounds like it.
Had to have been.
Obviously, the production knows that this was going to air in America and had to conform to the standards of American broadcast television at the time. But that said, possibly the fact that it was Canadian allowed them to be a little bit looser with such things, a little more liberal.
And also, it was a forgotten horror film for a long time. So if they did a Terror Train homage and they were Canadian, they would absolutely have known what Terror Train was and probably thought, absolutely no one in America will remember Terror Train. It was one of those forgotten horror movies, and it has only recently been rediscovered as kind of a cult classic. Jamie Lee did Prom Night and obviously Halloween, and those overshadowed Terror Train. And Terror Train's got its issues. It's got a lot to like about it, so I'm not slagging on it, but it's not a Halloween. It's not a Prom Night. if they didn't even work on Terror Train, because Terror Train was a Canadian joint. I wouldn't even be surprised if they actually got permission. Like, they talked to the guy who made it. We're like, hey, can we redo Terror Train?
And they would have had plenty of lead time because Terror Train was released in 1980, and this episode didn't air till 88, so even being made a year previous, that is definitely all a possibility.
I'm sure they were aware of it, and I'm sure they thought absolutely no one would draw that connection.
Do you happen to know if Terror Train was shown in theaters or was it straight to video?
No, it was shown in theaters, but it didn't do very well. And it was right before VHS. VHS was around, but it wasn't
ubiquitous yet?
Yeah, I was trying to think of some of those movies in like the mid 80s when they got onto VHS, they took on life of their own. I think something like Buckaroo Banzai.
The movies that didn't find their audience until they were available to watch at home.
Exactly. Movies didn't find their audience on the screen. I think Terror Train also may not have originally been on VHS. Like there might have been a distribution problem or something to it. I'm not a Terror Train expert, but I've heard it discussed on multiple podcasts across the movie sphere. So I know there was something about the ownership or distribution of it that kind of held it back for a long time.
Other than friend of the show, Jeremiah, you certainly know more about it than anyone I've ever spoken to. So I'm hesitant to do this. I try to yes and every chance I can, but I am now kind of curious just to explore this just a little bit because I do distinctly remember either the box cover or the poster in my local video store.
Okay.
So it must have come out on VHS eventually.
Oh no, it was on VHS, but I think it was before widespread adoption.
The early days.
Yeah, when we got a VCR, it was probably like 1980, 81 or something, and it was $1,000. Oh, you know what? One that I'm thinking of, it's not horror related, but I've heard this. Tommy Boy. Fast forward a decade.
I'm curious where this is going.
Tommy Boy did terrible in the theaters. When Tommy Boy came out on VHS, it made so much money for whatever, Universal or whoever made it. The VHS of it just blew up. Terror Train, that era may have been a little too early for it. Definitely people weren't owning VHSs. Tapes to own were still $100 at the time.
Yeah, that's why they used to come in those big white clamshells that provided all that extra protection.
Yeah, because technically if you were buying them, you were only buying them as a rental store. They just wanted to discourage home ownership. I believe I paid, I'm not even joking, $80 for The Hustler with Paul Newman.
Really?
Yeah, there was something real early that I absolutely wanted to own, and it wasn't available for early ownership, and it was a lot of money, and I was like, fuck it, I really want it. And that would have been late 80s, probably early 90s.
Thank you. That's what I was going to ask for the folks at home, what time frame we're talking about.
So, back in the day, you were just getting it through rentals. So I think Terror Train suffered from that. Feel free to no-butt me. And also because it was Canadian distribution.
No. My sole pushback was a memory of the image of the poster or box art in the store.
It's got that scary face on it, right?
Kind of.
Like a whitish and red, like a mask.
I'm sorry to press you so much on Terror Train. You carved out time in your day to talk about Friday the 13th, the series, and I'm blindsiding you with... This is why it made an indelible impression.
I just Googled it. Yes.
As a kid, somehow I was aware of the concept of Groucho glasses and this person called Groucho Marx.
Right.
And I don't know if it's actually supposed to be the case or not. Maybe you can tell me.
No, they wear that in the movie. That's in the movie. Terror Train's weird. They're all in costume, but it's not Halloween.
Okay.
I think it's a New Year's celebration, but everyone's wearing a costume on it. And one of them is Groucho. And as I Googled this VHS, it didn't come out till 1988.
Oh, and that jives with my memory.
Right.
Thank you. I've always wondered.
Well, yeah, that Groucho mask is totally in the movie. It's a great flick. It's a lot of fun, man. It really is.
Yeah, you once again, at least inadvertently, sold me on a property. I'm going to have to check this out now. My bucket list of films that I vaguely have awareness of from childhood that I need to finally cross off the list.
Awesome.
This episode was directed by Lyndon Chubbuck, Chubbuck, who directed 2 other episodes of Friday the 13th, the series, Episode 10, Tales of the Undead, and Episode 16, Tattoo. He directed an episode of Alien Nation, 1 episode of Swamp Thing, 4 episodes of Baywatch, 2 episodes of Thunder in Paradise, and a movie called Naked Souls from 1996 that starred Pamela Anderson, whom I presume he met on the set of Baywatch, that's described as an artist tries to reach her scientist boyfriend who has switched bodies with an evil elderly genius. Am I sensing some synchronicity around here? The episode was written by Josh Miller, who wrote Episode 8, Shadowboxer, a real favorite around this podcast, and one we reference all the time vis-a-vis Hiding in Plain Sight. Dr. Viola Rhodes was played by Carrie Snodgrass, Snodgress, who actually had a small uncredited role as Woman in Commune way back in Easy Rider. She had a far more substantial role in Diary of a Mad Housewife from 1970 with Frank Langella. She was on Highway to Heaven. She played Sarah Wheeler in 1985's Pale Rider, a Clint Eastwood Western and modern classic. So good on her. She was in Murphy's Law, a Cannon Films Charles Bronson vehicle, one episode of the television version of In the Heat of the Night, an episode of The X-Files, 2 episodes of Murder, She Wrote, the film White Man's Burden, starring John Travolta and Harry Belafonte, and you can look that one up for yourself, Chicago Hope, a cartoon loose reinterpretation of the pulp hero The Phantom called Phantom 2040 from 1994 that ran for 14 episodes and also featured voice work from Margot Kidder, Mark Hamill, and Ron Perlman. Somehow she was in 1998's erotic thriller Wild Things, 1 episode of ER, an episode of Touched by an Angel, 2000's Ed Gein starring Steve Railsback, and 1 episode of The West Wing. I'm not an expert and I'm getting way out over my skis on this, but I get the impression that in general, Canada tends to be a little more liberal with their arts than we are in the States, or at least were back in the 80s.
Maybe. They have that rule. I think it might still be in place. I don't know if it is still in place, but the rule about you must employ Canadian actors.
Right.
They would fund it if you had Canadian actors in it. Terror Train, for example, it's all Canadians for the most part, and then Jamie Lee Curtis.
You get one Hollywood star in there to be the name.
Yeah, and a lot of those Canadian ones where it'd be a cast of just raw Canucks, and then one or two American actors would fly up there.
A half a dozen knobs and hosers and 1 American star.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to go out on a limb and guess you've seen Strange Brew.
I was just going to say, don't even get me started on one of my all-time favorites, Strange Brew. The best part about Strange Brew, I mean, there's so much brilliance in that movie, but something that I 100% did not notice when I was a kid, and be honest if you did. Do you know what the actual plot of the Burgomeister was?
No.
So speaking of mind control, there was that big hockey scene, and they would play the mind control, and then the two sides got into a fight. You remember that?
I'll be honest, I saw this probably when I was in about junior high school and not since.
Okay.
So you are going to need to refresh me, but please just keep doing what you're doing and it'll be good for the folks at home who I know have not seen it.
Good. Strange Brew, first of all, is based on Macbeth.
Go on.
Yeah, the whole movie revolves around Macbeth. You've got the ghost of the murdered father. There's castles, Elsinore Brewery. So the whole thing is based around Macbeth. Max von Sydow's plot is to create a race war. And Bob and Doug save the world from a race war because the two teams, the way he displays his use of the mind control device is they're all dressed like stormtroopers in that fake stormtrooper gear that they had in the movie.
Yeah, that's coming back to me.
There's one team of white stormtroopers and there's a team of black stormtroopers. And when he flips it on, the white and the black, they hate each other all of a sudden. He's doing it to incite a race war, I believe, because they're implying he's an old Nazi hiding out in Canada.
Getting some real helter-skelter Charles Manson vibes here.
It's hilarious. I love SCTV. I love all those guys. Bob and Doug McKenzie, Rick Moranis. Strange Brew is absolutely legend. Plot is race war.
This might be apocryphal, and you can maybe step in and tell me if I'm wrong here, but I had heard that the movie exists because of SCTV, and the sketch exists because they just needed a little something more to pad out the show. So they came up with this idea, threw it together, and it became essentially their most popular sketch that ended up spinning off a movie. And in a classical Canadian way, Rick Moranis and Dave Thomas always felt really bad about their success because this little thing that was thrown together just to kind of kill time at the end of the episodes ended up becoming the most popular aspect of the show.
That all checks. That all makes sense to me.
It all sounds right.
Yeah, because SCTV was literally supposed to be them taking over Second City Television, SC Second City, quote unquote, taking over the channel for the programming for the night.
There's lore to SCTV?
Yeah, like they had a fake network executive, Count Floyd, Joe Flaherty.
Oh, Joe Flaherty.
Who was wheelchair bound and was a lunatic. John Candy was Johnny Toronto or something.
Okay.
Those characters were quote unquote real characters who would like be the people behind Second City Television. So the concept of Bob and Doug being a TV show on a cable access thing, a la Wayne's World, they kind of grabbed it from Bob and Doug. That's what it was. It was that they were a local cable access show that was airing on the channel Second City Television.
Okay.
So yes, that all checks that they needed some time to fill because their scenes aren't really sketches. Second City would do some amazing sketches, like really drawn out, long produced dolly crane shots of things, actual character-driven sketches. But when you see Bob and Doug McKenzie in The Great White North, it ain't a sketch. It is those two being funny and just being stupid. And they would tell a couple Canadian jokes and it would be like 90 seconds, maybe a couple minutes of just the two of them talking to each other. And they would do all the bits you see in the movie and on their records. Like, it's how you get free beer. You take a little baby mouse and you grow him in the bottle and all of a sudden he's a big mouse and you take to the brewery and say, hey, there's a mouse in my beer. And then they give you free beer. Oh, take off, hoser. You never did that. Oh, I certainly did, eh? All right, well, whatever. We'll see you next time. Like, that was a sketch.
Right.
It's great. Or today we're just going to play a new game. We call it the Beer Hunter. And what you do is you take your 6-pack of beers and you take one of them and you shake it up. And then you mix all up the 6-pack. And then when you open it next to your forehead like you're in Deer Hunter, the movie. And you're playing Russian roulette. And, Beer Hunter. That was it. There was nothing more to those sketches. And they were just so good. They were so good.
You see, George Lucas, good ideas are good ideas. You don't always need insane production value.
Yes, they were amazing.
Well, thank you for bringing me up to speed on that because although I've seen SCTV sketches, I don't think I ever saw them in the context of an entire episode and didn't understand the mythology behind the show.
Yeah, every single cast member there is also just bangers. There's no weak spot. And then Martin Short finally joins them.
Do you know if he hit the ground running with Ed Grimley?
I don't know when the first Ed Grimley was, but Ed Grimley comes from that show. I love Martin Short. He did. Have you ever seen?
I like where this is going.
It's him mocking Edgar Winter.
Okay. Yeah, I actually know who that is.
Edgar Winter, the albino rock and roll guy.
Yep. I had a Canadian friend that was super into him, actually.
Yeah. Martin Short did an albino rock and roll singer. It was like if David Bowie was an albino.
Right.
That was Martin Short's character. Oh my God. Second City deserves to be seen more.
I always feel like Martin Short doesn't quite get the respect he deserves.
He does not.
Maybe this isn't the right time to say it because he has the quite popular show, Only Murders in the Building. But I feel like at other times, maybe when he was a little less in the public eye, people kind of dismiss him in a way they don't so many of the other greats.
They do.
So we're agreed on that.
You're right. They do. I think he was dismissed for a long time.
And I always stand up for the man. I'm always like, no, have you ever seen Jiminy Glick? Like, come on, guys. Three Amigos.
Dude, I think the Jiminy Glick thing, when I go back and watch those, they're some of the funniest stuff I've ever seen. But I remember when it came out, I felt bad for him.
Oh, okay.
I didn't enjoy it when it came out. I didn't get the joke.
Really? Even as a fan, it didn't quite work for you?
Because that was also the era of Eddie Murphy doing the fat suits.
Okay.
It might have been like there was only room for one fat suit joke comedian guy, and Eddie Murphy won out, with the clumps and everything.
Uh-huh.
But like when I've gone back and rewatched the Jiminy Glick stuff, it's freaking brilliant. Have you ever seen Clifford?
I know exactly what you're talking about. Haven't seen it.
You need to watch Clifford. And that's another one too that absolutely no one understood that movie when it came out. I mean, it did terrible. And it's him and Charles Grodin. I love Charles Grodin.
Full confession, I was in that boat where I was a fan of both of those guys.
Yeah.
And I saw the trailer and maybe clips and I was like, I don't know about this.
Right. It's unhinged. It's so funny. But it's different. It's on a different wavelength. Martin Short, he operates on a different wavelength. I think he's getting his due now. He unfortunately had some recent family issues, terrible trauma. He lost his daughter. Very, very sad, which is a bummer because he's supposed to be just the nicest guy in the world.
I would have to believe he's the nicest human being that's ever lived.
Everyone loves him. He is so brilliant. I love him so much. Inner Space was one of my childhood.
Yep. I almost referenced that just a second ago.
Oh, my childhood favorites. Him in Inner Space was just perfection, man.
When you needed Jim Carrey before Jim Carrey, someone that could pull off all the physical comedy and the facial contortions of having a small spaceship inside of you running around your body blasting things.
Yes, and it was very broad. And let's be fair, a lot of those Second City guys, they made some movies that there are fun moments in them, but they're not great movies. But when you look back, you just always go, oh, but his performance is so committed. The movie may not have worked, but his performance is stellar. And Three Amigos is a movie that's been reevaluated as brilliant. When it came out, it was was fun and people enjoyed it, but people didn't love it.
Oh, was it not received well?
No. Speaking of movies that on VHS, I believe it was more when it hit cable, people loved Three Amigos.
Okay.
But in the theaters, I don't think Three Amigos did well at all. I think Three Amigos became what it was due to cable and then the aftermarket.
Oh, interesting. Because even as a kid, and that's not super adult, but it's not obviously made for kids, but that clicked with me instantly. And I thought, oh, yeah, this must just be a brilliant, beloved classic.
No, it's not. It had a rocky reception when it first came out.
Stuart Pangborn / Harry Braden was played by Dennis Forrest. As we mentioned earlier, Dennis was in a whopping 4 episodes of Friday the 13th the series. He also appeared in episode 3, Cupid's Quiver, as the villain. And then he's in 1 episode of season 2 and 1 episode of season 3. Dr. Werner was played by Brian Paul, who had a small role in Sea of Love with Al Pacino. He did 4 episodes of the 2001 miniseries RoboCop Prime Directives, which I'm just now learning is a second RoboCop TV show I need to check out. He was in an episode of Monk, an episode of Queer as Folk. He was a doctor in Saw 3. He was in an episode of Warehouse 13, an episode of The Strain, 2 episodes of Hemlock Grove, an episode of Designated Survivor, and 2021's VHS 94. Dr. Vincent Robison was played by Francois Clanfer, Klanfer, the first actor to have a CD in his name. He was in an episode of The Littlest Hobo, the movie Police Academy 4, Citizens on Patrol, an episode of the 1989 Alfred Hitchcock Presents, The Hitchhiker, Tech War. He was in The Virgin Suicides, and he was in 4 episodes of RoboCop Prime Directives, an episode of Monk, an episode of Queer as Folk, and an episode of Warehouse 13. I don't know if any or all of those are the same episodes as Brian Paul, but I'm sensing some synchronicity. I'll have to look into that. Good old Dr. Maxwell was played by David Walden. He was in an episode of Alfred Hitchcock Presents and had a small role in Cronenberg's Dead Ringers. And finally, the guard we'll eventually meet was played by Andrew Massingham. And while he might not have a massive list of IMDb credits, he had lines on a television show, which is more than I can say. If you like the horror genre as much as we do, you can preview the horror comic book Requiem for a Psychopath right now for free at the Inner Demon Entertainment website. Imagine a world in which horror film slashers are real. Then imagine a troubled teen bringing one out of retirement to help him take revenge on his bullies. It was written by me and drawn by friend of the show, Stephen Yu. Again, that's Requiem for a Psychopath on the Inner Demon Entertainment website. And if you dig it, please either review and rate it 5 stars on Amazon, or don't rate and review it at all. Ratings of less than 5 stars send the algorithm into murder mode for some reason. Thanks. I hope you enjoy it. Curious Goods must be located in the French region of Canada, because Mickey and Ryan appear to be making a dinner out of salad and a baguette. Because it was the 80s, they're washing it down with tall glasses of milk. Or, as there isn't even butter for the bread, maybe they're intending to dip that oilless pain quotidien in it. Not entirely crazy, Italians dunk certain breads in wine or water, and focaccia in cappuccino. Mickey raises the specter of the hole in Dr. Werner's neck, to which Ryan remarks,
Mickey, he fell down a couple flights of stairs. What do you expect?
"Not a hole, Ryan. Not a hole." Oh, when Jack asks how he looks for his big date, Mickey fans herself while remarking,
Ooh la la.
"So maybe I'm right, and they're in Montreal. Hey audience, I need your help. Listen to this.
Do you want some help with your tie?
We all hear a British accent, right? I'm not having a stroke, am I?" The brief shot of Ryan the Lion's amusement about Jack's nervousness is the perfect exemplar of my statement vis-a-vis John D. LeMay heightening his expressiveness. He doesn't say one word, but there's no doubt he's loving every minute of this exchange between Jack and Mickey. And Luis Roby's subtle repression of laughter feels completely genuine. I don't know if this is the episode where the acting freighter finally starts to turn, or if the process is already complete, but it's some kind of transition, and we can all be thankful for that. At dinner, Jack broaches the subject of Dr. Rhodes' journey to Kenya, one of 2 references to African countries in this episode, and so a reminder it was the 80s. At yet another restaurant in which everyone dines without food, we're treated to a lengthy single-take conversation playing out over a gently arcing dolly move. During it, we learn Dr. Rhodes mailed her engagement ring back. Lady, you mailed a diamond? Was there really no friend you could entrust as a courier? And now, I think, we learn that Jack was married at one point, but his wife divorced him because he was always on the road. If I'm wrong and we already knew he was married and or divorced, perhaps friend of the show Laura will be good enough to inform me. Speaking of reaching out, audience, I need you again. Take a listen to Mickey.
Where were you? I waited for you in the parking lot.
Maybe not British, but a little weird, right? Specifically the final word, lot. I'm not crazy. I'm not. This question is directed at Ryan, who presumably just returned to Curious Goods. Yeah, while Jack was on his date, our two other characters had related but separate adventures off-screen. Mickey tried to talk to Dr. Werner, who had already died, and Ryan snuck into hospital files to find Dr. Robeson's autopsy report. Collating their findings, they realized the deaths are linked via the puncture wound they observed on Dr. Werner. Also, Mickey, who is sporting an atomic red ponytail so massive that horsetail might be a more apt descriptor, turned so quickly I swore her hair whipped Ryan in the face the first time I saw it. But I guess she moved just enough upstage when she turned that it missed him. Still, good on John D. LeMay for not even flinching. Meanwhile, in a Hallmark Christmas movie, Jack escorts Dr. Rhodes into her hotel, and it's delightful to see these two kids in love. In the museum basement, Harry now wears glasses because Dr. Werner did, and informs the gorilla brain that he intends to make it talk. Dude, where is this going? Wasn't the ultimate goal AI? Is this a stop on the way? Did the plan change because you now have Dr. Werner inside you? What is happening? And, if you'd be so kind, why? Jack sneaks into Curious Goods sans shoes just to avoid detection, but Mickey and Ryan waited up, in their pajamas. Friday, I commend you for laying that flirtatious cousin's idea to rest, but this image really makes it look like they just hooked up. And on the subject of sleep attire, you've been doing well regarding Ryan the Lion's sartorial choices. Please don't squander that goodwill with this slightly odd pairing of a white shirt with red pants. It's like he's halfway to dressing as Santa. Why Jack seems like a man with a hangover and not one who just got laid is beyond me. Mickey, did you just say you went to the hospital?
We went to the hospital to try and talk to Werner.
Stop gaslighting me. After rehashing everything we already know for Jack's benefit, they connect the deaths to Harry/Dr. Pangborn. Jack specifically says the museum isn't open yet, so Harry and Dr. Rhodes must be burning the midnight oil when she informs him she can have a gorilla brain in goo speaking in a few weeks. Or 6 to 8 months? The way the line is written, it's really unclear, but I believe she's saying they can start teaching it in a few weeks, and it will be able to communicate in 6 to 8 months. Sounds like a miracle to me, or maybe the real miracle is that not one doctor has any issue swallowing any of this insanity. But Harry mandates it must be speaking in 2 weeks so he can unveil it at the National Science Conference. Harry fully intends to trephinate her, but allows her to leave, apologetically at that. So I guess he doesn't always trephinate someone after they've spilled their beans? Fine. But a little later, he'll knock her out and put her in the treffinator, so what the hell? I know I keep beating this drum, but in reference to Jack and his old flame, when Ryan says,
I can just imagine what he's dreaming about.
and Mickey replies,
Don't.
I'm genuinely amused. This show, and Louise Roby in particular, don't cotton to subtle humor, and this one snuck up on me. Creeping around the museum after hours, or before hours, I guess, Mickey and Ryan discover a test patient file for Harry containing the world's single worst photo. Seriously, what the hell is this? Overexposed, eyes shut, mouth somehow reading is both open and closed, and taken in the same room as the file cabinets it's stored in? It's a Polaroid of your guest star, Friday. Take a second one. Well, they figure out Dr. Stuart Pangborn is actually Harry Braden, at which point Mickey suggests they call him Braden. No! It's too many names and too many doctors already. Call him Harry, the name we know him by. Once again, they solve a mystery, but can't quite take that final leap to understand how someone with such a low IQ could be passing himself off as a doctor. Hey guys, remember that magic is real. That haunted curio you're after? The treffinator? The thing that does exactly what you're describing? He's using it! In a moment of pure coincidence, Harry just happens to show up as Mickey and Ryan are strolling away from their thievery and hears them departing. In a moment of more coincidence, he's compelled to ask if it's Dr. Rhodes down there with him. This turns out to be the first time anyone, including Jack, realizes that Dr. Rhodes and Harry might be working on the same project. Which begs the question, just how many scientists are doing research at this museum? A game of cat and mouse ensues in which Ryan the Lion bumbles his way into making more noise and attracting Harry. Hey guys, why exactly are you afraid of him? He's smart, but he's still just some science nerd. Stuff him in a locker. This scene goes on way too long, but it does allow us to see many a skull and skeleton, which prompted in me the revelation that, for reasons I don't pretend to understand, both are far more creepy if, instead of being white, they're beige or the color of old parchment, or even a classic burnt sienna. Mickey wisely hides in a crate, even though her file folder gets trapped in the door, kind of giving up the game. Harry grabs a tribal spear to hunt his prey, and Ryan the Lion hides behind practically nothing, as characters on this show are wont to do. It's a little better than Episode 8 Shadowboxer, but not much. Either he thinks Harry's vision is based on motion, or he's trying to pass himself off as one of the skulls. I'm not joking when I say that my honest first impression was the latter. A cunning stratagem, to be sure, but his hair game is just too on point. Way to pay off that earlier setup, Friday. The production should not have spelled out the geography by panning and tilting from Harry to Ryan in a single shot. I know what they were going for, but it doesn't work because they just didn't have enough ancient junk for Ryan to hide behind. Wait, no, they did, but they didn't use it. For reasons. Well, we hold on this ridiculous image for far too long, and I would submit that John D. LeMay agreed, because he finally starts moving just a little bit before the fade out to commercial break, as if he's dying to turn to the director and ask, "Is that enough?" And if you blame him, I don't want to know ya. Welcome to Crystal Ball, the segment where we gaze into the future and let time make fools of us all. Joe, you strike me as a romantic at heart, so I want to talk to you about the many loves of one Jack Marshak.
Okay.
As far as I can tell, we've heard about 4 love interests in this man's life.
That many?
We've heard about 4. We haven't met them all.
Oh, okay.
In this episode, we have Dr. Viola, obviously.
Sure.
And then Jack refers to being married and divorced. Other relationships I'm counting, way back in episode 5, Halloween, Jack talks about having a relationship with Uncle Vondradi's wife.
Oh!
That is the relationship I'm actually most fascinated by for obvious reasons. Paraphrasing a little, when Mickey asks him how he knew Vondradi's wife, he says, "Better than I ought to have, not as well as I would have liked."
Oh!
Yeah, there's some interesting lore there that I really hope the show gets to eventually.
Have we Googled, is there slash fic for this? It's Jack Von der Gee's wife and Captain Kirk.
It's the internet, so I'm sure someone has beaten us to market, Joe.
Yeah, whatever rule that is, it just took effect.
I'm actually also going to include Birdie from episode 4, Cup of Time. Now, that was not reciprocated. She was very much into Jack, and Jack would not give her the time of day for some reason. Weirdly standoffish for Jack, who's usually a very social character, but he wanted none of it.
Well, he's been burned by love. I'm all aboard for the erotic adventures of Jack.
He's quite the ladies' man. So I'm going to ask you, Joe, how many more love interests will Jack Marshak have? And I'm including on-screen and off-screen.
Okay.
So women that he's going to meet during the course of the show over the rest of its run, and then women that they're going to allude to from his past.
I love it. How many total episodes do we have left?
There's 3 seasons for a total of 72 episodes, and we are currently watching episode 18.
My condolences to his genitalia, because they're going to get a workout. I'll bet you at least we get 6 more mentions.
6 total between on and off screen.
On and off screen, yeah. Like 3 a season remaining. Once you do the here's my great love and she dies show, you can't do any more love interests this season. That would be in really poor taste.
Right. I'm completely on board that I don't think we'll get any more this season, since there's only, I believe, 6 more episodes to this season.
Yeah.
I think the ship has sailed, although Lord knows this show can do anything it wants at any time.
Well, here's a question back to you.
Please.
We know this actress is on the show, I think, 3 more times. Will she again play a love interest, but totally different person?
Maybe there's time travel. Maybe it's a reincarnation situation, or
He is a type.
or just a type. Maybe we get a little Vertigo. She's brunette, but he puts her in a blonde wig.
Oh, exactly. You can't deny that chemistry. That screen chemistry is there.
Absolutely. No, she's fantastic.
She's great. Yeah. You can see why they brought her back. You're like, you worked really well with this show. Oh, but we killed her in the first episode. No one will remember. You think 40 years from now, people are going to be talking about this all over the globe?
Never happened. Well, I like it. You're swinging for the fences.
Absolutely swing for the fences. When it comes to love, take your shots.
I was going to be a little more cautious and say probably 3 more mentions, 2 more women on screen, and 1 more mention of a love off screen.
Okay.
But my heart wants to go as high as your 6.
Imagine all the scenarios they'll be in where they're investigating some craziness and it's just a throwaway line of like, how do you know about this? Oh, my time in Cairo was a little randy. The man's led a life.
We're not even counting one-night stands and brothels.
Yeah, right?
And I'm sure there'll be a trapped in a small space episode where he's forced to rekindle an old relationship while trying to avoid drowning or something.
Totally. Would this count, though, if they do a flashback episode because they run out of budget? So they're about to die, and he goes, do you remember that time when I saw my fiance murdered? And then we flash back to that. Does that count? I don't know.
Joe, you think that's bad. Totally Family Guy it.
Remember that time my fiance had her brain pierced and her energy sucked out? And then I was strangely attracted to the creepy guy who took on her persona because I love her at her core, but ultimately I knew it wouldn't work because really I'm into her.
I love your homoerotic rewrite of the episode. Well then, since we're both on board for some more loves, do you think he will find a true love before the show is over? Will he either marry off in the final episode, or do you think he'll even leave the show early because he found a new lady love and he's settling down?
I don't feel like these shows back then did season enders. And even if he gets written off the show, his love is adventure. He's kind of like Indiana Jones, like in that last Indy movie where Indy needed adventure to feel loved. Sure, at the end, he's like, yeah, Marion, I need to love people. But that's a lesson he had to learn. Like, Indy lived for adventure.
Jack Marshak is like a sailor. He's married to the sea.
Yeah, there's a creepy item in every port waiting for Jack Marshak.
A curio in every port. I love it.
Exactly. If they do ever write him off the show, I'll bet you it is somehow in pursuit of something, not because of I fell in love with a woman.
Right.
Maybe he's with someone else and they're like, we're going to go after it together. But I bet you it would be about going after it, not necessarily about I fell in love and my thirst for knowledge has been sated.
Right. Jack Marshak leaves the show riding a dinosaur off a flaming skyscraper.
Into a teleportation portal that takes him to the 18th century.
There's no settling down for this man.
Absolutely not.
I agree completely, partly for narrative reasons, partly for the meta reasons you brought up. I don't have much knowledge of the future of the show, fortunately. It makes this all a lot more fun. But I'm pretty sure he stays on through the entire run. And based on what friend of the show Jeremiah had mentioned, I feel like the show went out pretty much at its height. And by went out, I mean was canceled.
Yeah.
Because it was too controversial for the time slots it was being given. So I don't think they would have had the time to properly write a send-off with a wedding on the final episode.
Yeah, Sunday mornings at 8 a.m. seems like a rough time to air this.
Right after Muppet Babies and RoboCop, the kids' animated cartoon show.
And before the 700 Club, we give you Friday the 13th, the series.
Exactly. So I don't think he'll marry out early or in the final episode, but I think he will have some more love interests before it's over.
Definitely will in my fanfic.
You'll have to come back as a future guest and share some of that, Joe.
Imagine he finds a cursed first printing of the Kama Sutra.
Wow, Joe. Sold in the room, this show writes itself. Welcome to our one-time only segment, Robert dives headlong down the Ninja Turf rabbit hole, in which I'll explain the insane journey I embarked on because of Friday's reuse of a stolen driving shot in 2 back-to-back episodes. Get your corkboard and red yarn ready, because we're about to connect some truly insane dots. The previous episode of Friday features a possibly stolen piece of footage of the Winchester Mobile racing down some Canadian city's rough equivalent of 80s Times Square. Actually, I already take that back. The footage isn't featured. In fact, blink and you'll miss it. But at the very tail of the shot, the Winchester Mobile passes an enormous movie theater marquee advertising a film called Ninja Turf. If you go back in the podcast archives to episode 17, The Electrocutioner, you'll hear my acerbic remark about wishing I was watching that instead. Knowing what I know now, I'm not actually sure if I thought it was a real movie or a fake title they had the theater mock up. Now, in the glaring light of day, of course they didn't have the budget or time or interest in having a theater fake their marquee, but it didn't seem insane at the time. Well, this episode will soon reuse that same piece of footage, although it begins and/or ends at a slightly different point. For the record, it isn't the first time the show has reused a piece of footage. In fact, this is precisely why I'm always stunned every establishing shot of Curious Goods is unique. But I digress. These steely-eyed rocket men had the nerve to use the same footage in consecutive episodes. So I got curious and looked up Ninja Turf. Turns out, it's real. Guess we can close the books on that one. Au contraire. Ninja Turf was released in South Korea in 1985 as Los Angeles Street Fighter. Yes, it seems to have been released with an English name. However, it's had about 20 names over its various releases around the world and in different formats, some in English and some not. Of the ones in English and the ones I can loosely translate to English, they're mostly subtle variations of Los Angeles Street Fighter or Chinatown. But Canada received hands down the best title with Ninja Turf, despite the fact I don't believe the film has any ninja in it. Fun fact, I had no idea movies were localized for Canadian markets. Kinda thought what was good for the United States would also fly in Canada, but I stand corrected. Well, here, en los Estados Unidos, el título es LA Street Fighters. Again, a distinction I can't believe we're making. A minor quibble on my part, but if you go to the movie's IMDb page and look under connections, you'll see one for Friday the 13th, the series, episode 18, Brain Drain, but not episode 17. It's a correction any of us could fix right now, but I'm fascinated by the omission and think I'll leave it. But here's where it gets wild. It turns out the movie was directed by Woo-Sang Park, the co-writer, co-director, co-producer of the infamous Miami Connection, widely regarded as a true gem of the so bad it's good genre. And now, a primer on Miami Connection for any neophytes listening. Details are sketchy, so some of this might be apocryphal, and I urge you to dive deeper into the story if it intrigues you as much as it does me. In the 80s, a Korean immigrant and successful Taekwondo instructor by the name of Y.K. Kim nearly bankrupted himself making his first and only movie, which he, you guessed it, co-wrote, co-directed, co-produced, and starred in. Rounding out his cast were his real-life students. The description on IMDb reads, "A martial arts rock band goes up against a band of motorcycle ninjas who have tightened their grip on Florida's narcotics trade." That old chestnut. Yes, despite already wearing a lot of hats and not being a grandmaster of the English language, Y.K. Kim also cast himself as the frontman for the film's musical numbers. The film was made in 87 or 88, reports differ. It was screened a few times, probably in Florida, but failed to find distribution and languished in obscurity for decades. Cut to 2009, when Alamo Drafthouse cinema programmer Zach Carlson bought a copy on eBay for $50, reached out to Kim for permission, and began screening it. It proved such a hit, the film was re-released in 2010. The website VHS Revival had this to say about it. Miami Connection tells the age-old story of a Taekwondo practicing rock band's run-in with a gang of ruthless ninja assassins. One presented with the neon, MTV-inspired gusto of an amateur stage production of West Side Story by way of Bob Giraldi's Beat It. This being 1980s Miami, cocaine is at the heart of everything, presumably both in front of and behind the camera. Tonally, it's an absolute show. One minute, we're basking in the pop culture opulence of a carefree synth-pop performance. The next, we're mired in decapitated limbs and slashed torsos. Given its inability to truly define itself from a marketing perspective, it's no wonder the movie was rejected so mercilessly. Adding to the weird blend of teenage-friendly entertainment and unabashed violence is the fact that the members of Dragon Sound are otherwise passive, good-natured students whose only goal is to rock out, have fun, and tour the world in the hope of spreading international peace. Oh, and they're orphans. Every last one of them. What are the odds? It's been reviewed by such YouTube channels as Red Letter Media for one of their Best of the Worst videos, and the channel Comic Tropes After Dark for one of their Trash Movie Bonanza films, and I encourage you to watch both. Now, I knew all that, but I was completely unaware that Kim brought on an established director to help him write, direct, and produce it. On the one hand, a perfectly prudent decision. On the other hand, I think that knowledge raises more questions than it answers. Woo-Sang Park appears to have had 17 films under his director's belt before assisting with Miami Connection, including LA Street Fighters, aka Los Angeles Street Fighter, aka Ninja Turf, the film he made immediately prior to it. Quick aside, but how fitting is it that this movie should appear in an episode overstuffed with too many doctors and too many aliases as it is? Well, that has to be it for weird coincidences, right? No other shocking revelations here, one assumes. Probably time to hit the old dusty trail. Yeah, hold my beer. Click on the cast list for LA Street Fighters, aka Los Angeles Street Fighter, aka Ninja Turf, then scroll way down past a couple dozen names you don't recognize next to empty placeholders for photos, and you'll discover that the part, member of Spike's gang, was played by a young up-and-comer by the name of Tom Wilson. If that name doesn't ring a bell, allow me to translate. LA Street Fighters, aka Los Angeles Street Fighter, aka Ninja Turf, was the film debut of Back to the Future's own Biff Tannen. It turns out young Master Tannen did an episode of Knight Rider, an episode of The Facts of Life, Ninja Turf, then landed Biff in Back to the Future. Also, he's the 86th Tom Wilson listed on IMDb. That's gotta be a record. Of all the things I expected to learn when I embarked on a quest to find out if Ninja Turf was a real movie, that was dead last. To bring this mind-bending tangent to a close, here's one more noodle scratcher. The unrelated movie advertised on the marquee is 1985's action crime drama Certain Fury, whose trailer felt to me like a Death Wish spin-off, which starred Academy Award winners Tatum O'Neal and Irene Cara, not to mention Peter Fonda. Actually, the fact Tatum and Irene won Oscars, but not Peter, is also a noodle scratcher. But the point I was going to make is that Certain Fury is smaller on the marquee than Ninja Turf, as if it's the B movie. Weird. I just might have to look into that. If you enjoy closure, this episode's wrap-up is going to be a treat for you. First, the SCTV executive character John Candy played was Johnny LaRue of LaRue Enterprises. Second, actors Brian Paul, who played Dr. Werner, and Francois Clanfer, who played Dr. Robeson, were both in the first 4 episodes of RoboCop Prime Directives, but were in different episodes of Monk, Queer as Folk, and Warehouse 13. Total aside, Francois was in 2 episodes of Warehouse 13, not 1. I hope you can forgive me. Finally, if you want to watch LA Street Fighters, aka Los Angeles Street Fighter, aka Ninja Turf, or just want to flip through it to see a babyface Tom Wilson playing a street thug, it is currently available to watch in full for free on YouTube. But I don't know if Paramount owns it, so you might want to check it out while you can. Just, don't expect any ninja. Thanks for listening, everyone. We know you have a lot of options when choosing a Friday the 13th the Series podcast, and we sincerely thank you for choosing ours. Special thanks to Joshua Romeo for original music and to Stephen Yu for original art. And be sure to check out the Joe on Joe podcast, the only podcast where Joe Slepsky discusses G.I. Joe. If you want to support our show, you can leave a review and rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. If you want an occasional update on our projects, you can sign up for our newsletter at the Inner Demon Entertainment website. And if you want to complain about social media with us on social media, you can find links on our website. And always remember what Carl said to Frylock. It don't matter. None of this matters. Good night, everybody.